Go ahead.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Creative Media Awards webinar. My name is Jenn Beard. I'm a program officer with Mozilla, and I'm joined by Brett Gaylor, who is a senior fellow with Mozilla, working on this program. Hey. All right. So today, wait for my slides to catch up. All right, so today we are going to give you an overview of the 2019-2020 Creative Media Awards and cover some projects we've funded in the past to give you some context, and then we will go over how to apply and the timeline for applying for funding, and then answer some questions that were pre-submitted via the form you signed up for the webinar on. So before we get into that, if you're not familiar with Mozilla, Mozilla exists to protect and promote the internet as a global public resource, open and accessible to all. And one of the ways that we do this work is through supporting innovators and makers and artists in creating things that will help make the internet a more healthy, open resource through things like awards and fellowships, and other things like MozFest, which is our annual festival, and other things like that. You can find out more about all of the work at the foundation at foundation.mozilla.org. All right. Brett is going to tell us about the Creative Media Awards.
Yes, I am.
Can you see my slides?
Yes. Yeah, so as Jen mentioned, we see these awards really as a way to have media makers and artists support that mission of keeping the internet open. For the last several years, our focus within the media awards and our media work more generally has been around some of the critical issues around artificial intelligence and how that is affecting these issues of the public sphere. Particularly, we see these relating to internet health in the themes of privacy, decentralization, and openness. Obviously, AI touches a broad spectrum of civil society, but when we think about our internet health themes, we've grouped them into those categories. And it's going to be important when you're filling out some of the application forms. We ask you to identify that, and this is some news you can use as you fill in that application form. The total funding for all of the awards is $200,000 in funding. Individual awards will range from $10,000 to $30,000. So that's at the discretion of you, the applicant, to how much you're going to need. And what these awards are meant to support is creative media. All these types of media that serve to increase public awareness of issues related to artificial intelligence. So those are the types of media that we support. We have more detail about explicitly about things that we're looking not to support that you can find in the project call. These are the criteria that the awards are meant to meet. They're to support works at either the conceptual or the prototype phase. So this is not money for completed works. The works need to be screen-based. So that's important for you to know that if I'm back. If the work can only be experienced in person, we wouldn't support that work. It must be freely available. Pardon me. It must be freely available on the web. The target audience for this work should be non-experts as well. So this is for folks that are learning about these issues for the first time, and we really want to understand or we only want to see that you understand who your audience is and how this work is going to find them. When we ask who that audience is, and you would say it's for everybody, that would be considered a red flag. So help us to understand that you know who this is for, where they find their media, how you would get this work to them, and we wanted to see that you've.
Oh,
I'm back. We want
you
to
might
see.
face mute maybe, Brett. I don't know if that would help.
Okay,
Sorry, you just keep freezing.
all right. I'm gonna do it on the next slide. So we want to, in the criteria, you'll also see that we want. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought you.
We want to see that you have done a work like this before, or that you would be able to. We want to know that you'd be able to iterate on a prototype, or that you've made this type of media before. So I seem to be having some bandwidth issues, so I'm just going to face mute while we do the next slide. So you'll see that this year we're particularly focusing on how machine learning and artificial intelligence is changing the way that we understand what is real, what is the truth. Uh, so this, from the, as we said here, from the experience of new forms of what we call synthetic media, such as deepfakes, to the algorithms which determine the content of our news feeds, today's information ecosystem is being shaped in new ways by AI and by the powerful platforms that rely on it. So one of the most visceral sort of um, manifestations of this phenomenon can be seen in what is known as deep fakes. So that's just one example of how these new capabilities of AI are beginning to really question how we understand what's real. Um, and we're leaving this to you as the creative makers to really help us think through how we could help the public grapple with these issues. So this is quite a new area of exploration, an exciting area we think both creatively and intellectually for folks to explore. And that's going to be the focus of all the media that we support. I'm going to go to the next slide, Jen. So we just wanted to give you a few examples of things that Mozilla has supported recently that kind of are exemplary of the type of work that we want to come out of this program. This is a project from last year's Creative Media Awards, Stealing Your Feelings, which just premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in April and will be coming online shortly. And it's essentially an augmented reality film that is able to track your emotions while you're watching it, and use that as a way to explore some of these themes of the new capabilities of emotion detection that and artificial intelligence that some of the tech platforms have patented. We're really excited that this is going to launch really soon, and it's an example of sort of the where the creative piece as well as the advocacy piece are integrated within a single project. Want to go to the next slide? Uh, this project just launched a few weeks ago, uh, the Training Commission. So this is an exciting project. It's an email newsletter from the future, where an artificial intelligence has led to a sort of a catastrophic breakdown in civil war in American society, and it's essentially a Truth and Reconciliation Commission that explores what happened, and it unfolds through a series of emails delivered to your inbox. Uh, it's amazing. It's created by Ingrid and Brendan, and we're excited that this is live. It's a kind of an exciting new way to tell a story. Um, yeah, sorry, it's an exciting new way to tell a story. But the fun thing about the Training Commission is that it's really a work of serialized fiction. So I just wanted to show that too, to show that we're supporting a variety of different approaches. This is a week with Wanda that just launched, I think, within the last few days.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday, and it's an AI chatbot essentially that where the artificial intelligence in the piece begins to kind of go off the rails and take an increasingly more opinionated role in your life. You got to check it out. So that's at weekwithwanda.com, and that's just launched by Joe Hall. Go to the next one, Jen. This is from a few years ago. This is Chupadados by Mozilla Fellow Joanna Veron. And it's essentially a series of articles, long reads, GIFs, apps. It's a multimedia project that Joanna undertook with her um, with her with her group Coding Rights in Rio de Janeiro that examined the ways in which what she called the data suckers can extract data from women's bodies all around the world, but with a particular focus on the global south. It's a pretty amazing project that um, spans both journalism but also other forms of digital media. One of the most exciting things about this project is just the variety of different ways that they use media to explore the topic. Go to the next slide. And this is Public by Default by Mozilla Fellow Hang Ho Tiduk, where Hang was able to get access to a year of publicly available data from the popular payment app Venmo, and use this data to basically discover the the intimate details of 5 people that were unaware that they were posting this much publicly available data to the internet. And Hang was able to use this project to publicly pressure Venmo to make changes to their API. So as you can see, we're really trying to support a variety of different approaches here. They're all available on the internet, though, and they're all free to use, which is a unifying principle. When these folks came to Mozilla and applied for either a fellowship or an awards track, it was really important that they were able to describe to us what the user experience of the application was going to be. Um, in addition to being smart and understanding the issues, these makers were just able to explain to us how this sorry and that's one of that's something that we ask in the application form, and this isn't just an area that we see folks get tripped up on, is that they use that moment in the application to not sometimes folks describe why they're really passionate about this subject matter rather than what is actually going to happen and what a user will do. So we just wanted to take a moment to really underline that this is probably the most important part of the application process. Go to the next slide, Jen. There's just a lot of different ways that you can do that. This is just an example of a sitemap or a user journey flow that some people will use to map out how this is going to happen. You want to go to the next slide, or they'll just basic maybe wireframes. This is from a project that we supported called Paperstorm, where they were just able, before the application, were able to just kind of mock up what they wanted to do. And there is not, Jen's going to explain the phase process that we use. We require a letter of interest first, and then a more detailed application. And in that detailed application, there is a moment where you can upload files, and we really encourage folks to send as much detail about the proposed user experience as possible. We'll go to the next slide.
Great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're always available to answer any questions that folks have. There's various ways that you can get a hold of us or send us questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. Um, so thanks, and over to you, Jen, for how the process works.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get into the timeline and the process, I just wanted to also mention that in addition to the award amounts, we also provide some support around an impact design plan to make sure that throughout the process of the award, which ranges from September through May, that you kind of will be able to support you in timelining out, progress and what the impact you're trying to make is. So we'll help you kind of further refine the proposal that you submit. And then we will also work with you to help promote your project to the public. So this is certainly something that comes up in the application as well, as far as how will you get the word out and how will you kind of promote your idea. And we will also help support this in some ways too. So just wanted to let you know that. This is the current timeline. I know that many people, when they signed up, had questions around, how long do you have to create your project? Certainly when are things due? So we slightly moved out the required letter of intent deadline. It was the 29th of May. It is now June 3rd, which is a Monday, giving everyone another weekend to get that in. That's kind of a high level, pretty lightweight form that you will fill out, and I'll go through that in a second where you can find that. But really just to kind of give us your concept and let us know whether or not it seems in alignment with our goals for this track. And then basically you'll be invited to submit a full application, which is due by July 3rd, if the letter of intent meets our requirements for this track. And then we will be making funding decisions and letting people know around the beginning of August. And then we will be publicly announcing who's been funded. And then the program will basically wrap up by mid-May next year. So basically between August and May is when you'll have time to create your project. So Mozilla uses a grant management system called Flux. You can access it at mozilla.flux.io, and you will basically come to a screen that looks like this. You need to go down to where the red arrow is, where it says submit your idea. You won't have a login name yet until you submit your letter of intent. So just click on submit your idea, and you will come to a screen that looks like this. And basically under the award type, which is the first field, you will select project support, and then the awards track will be Creative Media Awards, and then that will set what is required for the form. So basically, depending on what track you pick, the application is slightly different. So please make sure to pick project support and then Creative Media Awards. And then just a couple things about Flux. Information doesn't auto-save. And also, once you submit your letter of intent, you can't edit it. So make sure that you might want to keep track in another document and then cut and paste when you're ready to submit. If you make a mistake and accidentally submit it blank, just let me know. I'll give you my email address at the end. Yeah, we suggest that you use, Flux doesn't really work on mobile, so we suggest you use a browser. It's kind of optimized for Chrome, so it's a little off-brand for us, but just so you know, you'll have the best experience there with Flux. And yeah, so that's kind of some information about Flux. Once you submit your letter of intent, which again is due Monday, June 3rd, we will be reviewing those individually, and basically you will either receive a rejection saying that your letter of intent doesn't fit our criteria, or you will be invited to submit a full application, which is due July 3rd. And you will basically be given a login for Flux. So back to that screen we just talked about, you'll be able to log in there, and you'll be able to submit and see your dashboard there. If you have any problems with Flux, you're welcome to email our grant management team at grants@mozillafoundation.org. I do want to mention that many people find their notifications from Flux in their spam folder, so please be checking that as well. We've had people sort of find it on the day the full application was due, and that creates a lot of stress for you and us. We want you to have enough time to submit your full application, which is why we give you kind of a month between. So basically, when you submit your letter of intent by June 3rd, hopefully by the end of that week, we'll have invited people or rejected people, so you'll have an idea by then. But if you have questions, you can always reach out. All right, we're going to get into some pre-submitted questions from all of you. I think Brett did a good job of covering this already, but we want to just reiterate that we are supporting projects that you may have in your mind or maybe have sketched out already but haven't already launched into the world. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Brett.
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Please do submit a brand new idea.
Yes, awesome. All right. We've received questions in the past around whether the projects need to be English-speaking audiences, or if you are able to submit a multi-language project. We certainly support multi-language projects, but your application and supporting materials that you upload need to be in English, because our review committee, which is made up of both Mozilla staff and external folks, all share English as a common language, and so we would like to be able to evaluate your proposal accordingly. But certainly support multi-language. Brett, do you want to say anything else about physical components?
Robots.
Robots.
Love robots, but I think it's, I mean, you saw that our criteria that this is available for a broad audience. So if the only way that somebody could experience your project completely is if they were there with the robot, then probably no. But if there's a robot somewhere out in the world that's doing something that anybody on the internet can experience, heck yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's exciting ways that the physical and the online can merge, and we have supported that type of work in the past. But for us, the common denominator is that everyone can have the same experience, and that's on the internet.
Great. All right, Brett, do you want to answer the next question about technical skills?
Yeah, it comes up a lot. We aren't able to help you code or realize the project. You need to be able to do that completely within your team. Having said that, we can often, as Jen mentioned, we have support for things like marketing and promotion, and even sometimes there are particular security concerns that we can help with within our teams about making sure that projects don't, for instance, leak data if they are asking for data from people to have their experience work. But no, yes, you need to have the technical and artistic skills to complete the project within your team.
All right, this is also for you, Brett.
So this question is about whether the work can use a deepfake or use the techniques of synthetic media to reflect on synthetic media, and that's basically the point of this project call. So yes, we would love it if your work used the very techniques that we want the project to interrogate. If I understand the question properly, could it be a deepfake itself? Could it be a deepfake that in itself is a commentary on the phenomenon of fake video, without explicitly talking about fake video? I think that that gets to, does it help the public understand the issue? Yes or no?
Great. All right. Someone asked a question around what the award is based on, how we make decisions, and what that will be. And we, at the beginning of the call, talked about the criteria for what we're looking for. And basically, each one of the criteria, which is listed in the application guide as well, is tied to a scoring rubric that the judges use to give numerical scores. And then we have a qualitative conversation around, what people feel is the most fitting for this awards track. So basically making sure that you satisfy the judging criteria that's listed is probably the most helpful in how we make awards. We also, in the past, we certainly get more proposals than we can possibly fund. So back to what Brett was saying around the user experience, the more clear you can be to help the judges understand how and why this could be a really amazing way to understand AI and deepfakes and provide truth and transparency around artificial intelligence, I think the better your score will be, and the easier the judges will be able to see that as coming to life. Someone asked about whether the award could be used for feature-length movies that address current issues with AI. And then kind of coupled with that, someone asked about if it was okay for the Creative Media Award to only be 90% of the total budget. So to both of these questions, so the award amounts being $10,000 to $30,000. If you feel like that is enough money to complete your project within the time allotted, that's certainly fine. Part of the full application will require a budget so that you will be basically saying exactly what you need to complete the project. And if you have other sources of funding available to you, you know, it's helpful if you say, you know, the whole project is going to cost $100,000. I'm requesting 30, and I have 70 from this other place. That's great. If you are actively applying for multiple sources of funding and aren't sure whether you'll have other funding, it will be helpful to us and our judges to be able to see that, you know, if you were to get $20,000, you could still be successful. If your project budget is $200,000 and this is part of it and you don't have any other committed money, it's going to be hard for them to see that as potentially a feasible project to be completed. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we've come to the end. So anyone who is on the call now, I think, should have received a calendar invite, which included the link to the application guide. Pretty much everything we've talked about today is included in there. We also have the Internet Health Report website, which can give you more context and background on what we mean by internet health and those 3 internet health areas that Brett talked about at the beginning. If you still feel like you have questions that you'd like to ask me or Brett, my email address is in this slide, and I can certainly forward any technical or artistic questions towards Brett and get you an answer. So thanks so much. We'll be putting up the slides at the end in the comment section under the YouTube video link, which is available. It will be available as a recording. So if you want to rewatch this or share this with any of your teammates, feel free to do so. Thanks so much.